Have you ever wanted to grow a garden, but you felt like you just didn't have the space to get it done? Hopefully this video will show you that you can grow some vegetables in a very small space. Hey, I'm Dr. Tom Warren, and you're watching The Plant Doctor. What I want to show you today is my installation of my garden that's only 25 square feet. So we have a 5x5 area here. And what we're going to do throughout the summer is we are going to rotate some crops in and out of here. We're going to use the vertical structure behind me to maximize the amount of produce that's grown in this given area before we have our frost, which will probably be sometime between Halloween and Thanksgiving in my area. So what we have here is just kind of a menagerie of plants that either I've grown from a cutting or they were given to me. I've got some seeds here. I went down to the local seed store, bought some seeds. I also got some bonus seeds from a supplier that we're going to put in here as well. But we have peppers. These are Leysa peppers, L-E-Y-S-A. We have strawberries. We have Athena cantaloupes. We have Clemson spineless okra. And then we have 3 Black Beauty tomatoes here behind me. For the seeds, we have Bloomsdale long spinach. We have bush zucchini. And we have sweet corn, honey and pearl. We're going to try these out. So it's a little late in the season to actually be growing greens here in my area. I'm already in mid-April. It's April the 24th. I'm late April. And I'm planting greens. So my thought process is I'll get some greens in the first part of June before it gets too hot. But then I'll rip those out. And I think I'm going to come back in with like some yellow crookneck squash. I really love squash. And I have the okra and squash together. That's one of my favorites. So as the greens fade out, we'll plant some plants that are a little more heat tolerant than the greens, but I would like to get some greens in here if we could. Let's talk about the media that I'm using in this planter. So in this media, it is 1 part pine bark, 1 part sand, and 1 part peat moss by volume. So 1 shovel full of pine bark, 1 shovel full of sand, 1 shovel full of peat. It's just all mixed up real good. You may notice here the ground looks a little whitish. What I do is I come over the top of this every so often with ash. I have a chimenea and a grill over here on my patio, and when the ash builds up in those two, I just bring it over here and dump it. It's great nutrient input for this raised bed. I have this raised bed arranged north-south to maximize the amount of sunlight that I'm getting. We're going to put the tallest plants over here on the northwest corner of the planter, so that way it's not shading out anything. The smallest plants, like the strawberries and the greens, they're going to be up here towards the southeast corner. We're maximizing the amount of sunlight that these plants are going to get because of that. Also, I have these plants arranged in what we call planting on center. What planting on center does for us is we can put more plants in a given square footage than if we were to just go in straight rows. I know it doesn't, when you think about it, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but when you draw it out on paper, it works really well. So let's get to planting some of this. So the first thing that I want to plant is going to be in the back. We're going to work our way from the back towards the front, so that way we're not just stepping all over ourselves in the plants that we're putting in the ground. We are going to plant our tomatoes first. So these Black Beauty tomatoes. So one thing I want to show you about these tomatoes, you may have noticed there that these are in styrofoam cups. These were given to me, so Dr. Smith, a colleague of mine at the college, he is a tomato expert. The guy can grow some tomatoes. Hats off to Dr. Smith. And he gave me some Black Beauty. So what he did, he started these in a seed starter kit. And the actual plant is probably 8 or 10 inches tall. So the roots are down here, the original roots. And what he did was he pulled all the leaves off of it and he put it in this styrofoam cup. And we've only got the top 3 branches left. He does this with all his tomatoes. So if you're wondering why our tomatoes are in a styrofoam cup, that's why. So you start them in a seed tray. Once they're rooted out and they get about 10 inches tall, you just rip all the leaves off of them except for the top 2 or 3 leaves there, and it'll root down in that cup. So just a little trick, we're maximizing the amount of root volume we have before we put it in the ground. So this plant will really start to take off and it'll produce a lot of fruit for us in a short amount of time. So let's go get to planting. So we're going to use this trellis behind us here for these tomatoes. As the tomatoes get larger, we're going to use horticulture tape, and we're just going to take the limbs and we're going to tie them up to this string and let them go up these strings and up these 1x4s. So I'm going to take this tomato very carefully. I'm going to massage this tomato, and it's not fully rooted, so I've got to be very careful here. All right. They probably could have stayed in those styrofoam cups a little bit longer, but I just wanted to go ahead and plant. So there's one, and you'd be amazed how fast you can get these in the ground because we're not planting in regular soil here, right? This is a raised bed. We've selected the soil type that we're going to plant in right here. And so this is very easy to work with. I'm just using a hand trowel. We'll pop this one out here again, being very careful with it. We'll plant that one there. And then we'll do the last one right on this slat right here. So the tomatoes are now officially in the ground once we get this last one in. So the next crop that we're going to plant is actually going to be the corn. I'm going to kind of start back in this corner and work my way across the bed. So just so I'm not stepping on anything, we'll work our way backwards towards the front. And so this is the honey and pearl corn. These were actually a bonus thing. I bought some hostas, I believe, from Burgess Nursery, and they sent me these, a packet of corn as a thank you. And it's on the package it says we can plant these 5 inches apart from each other at a depth of 1.5 inches. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to use my middle finger, dig a little hole, drop the corn in there, go down about 5 inches. And I'm going to do 5 of these. That's 3. I'm afraid if I go all the way across, what will happen is I'll completely shade off the whole bed because the corn will get the tallest. So the shade should cast more towards the back corner here in the evenings, but I don't want to go all the way out because it will shade. So we'll just do one more. I'm going to go about halfway down the total length of the bed, and that's it. All right, so our corn is in. The next thing we're going to plant are our Clemson spineless okra. I have 2 of those. I've grown Clemson spineless in the past. It does very well for me here on the line between 7B and 8A. One thing I would recommend if you grow Clemson spineless is this. As soon as your okra gets, we'll say like 4 or 5 inches long, pick it. Because if not, I found out what happens is on this okra with Clemson spineless, it can get very tough. It doesn't, the flavor's good, but the texture's terrible. It's like, I don't know, chewing on a leaf or something. You just can't, it seems like you can't chew it. It has too much cellulose in it. So get it while it's young and tender, and don't let it get too big on you. I had some one time where I let it get like 12 inches long. I was like, oh, I'm the man. I grew this big okra. And we took it to the kitchen. I like fried okra. We fried it, and it was about the worst fried okra I'd ever had in my life. It was terrible. But if you can get it when it's younger, it is so, so good. Clemson spineless is a great variety of okra. So the next thing we're going to do are plant our peppers here. I'm going to go ahead and get all the vegetative stuff in the ground so we can see where it's at, and then we're just going to plant some seeds around it. So we'll get these peppers in the ground. And so Dr. Smith also grew these peppers. He was gracious enough to give me a few of them, and that's why they're in the styrofoam cups. He took them out of the seed pods and put them in styrofoam cups for me. All right, so our peppers are in. We've got 2 Athena cantaloupes. And if you've never had an Athena cantaloupe, go to the grocery store and buy you an Athena cantaloupe. It'll change your life. I used to like cantaloupe. I had an Athena cantaloupe and I love cantaloupe. It's like candy. It is so good. It's real moist. It's tender. It's extremely sweet. And this one already has flowers on it. So we'll plant this one here. There's another one right here. And the last thing we have is our strawberry in terms of the potted material. Now this strawberry, I can't remember the cultivar off the top of my head. I'll have to go back and look. I'll leave it in the name of it at the bottom of the screen when I'm editing, but it did come from Park Seed. And I think it's not Parks Whopper. Parks Whopper is one of their tomato varieties, but it's something Parks. And it's already got a little tomato, or excuse me, a little strawberry on it already. So we're gonna go ahead, this is probably the smallest plant I have, so it's gonna go in the southeast corner. Just like that. We may get a little strawberry that's ripened up here in maybe a week or so. It just needs to fill on out a little bit. All right, so our vegetative stuff's in. So what I'm gonna do now, I know where my corn is. I'm gonna do some of these zucchinis. Around the edge of my okra and my peppers. And I'm just gonna, here again, I'm gonna do these on center. Here again, they need to be about 2 inches deep. I'm just making little indentions in the soil. We'll do 5 of them, that's plenty. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so my zucchini's in the ground. So now what I'm left with, I've got an area in the front and down the side right here. And what we're gonna do, we are gonna use this greens mixture. This is Mesclun Gourmet Green Mixture. And so this is just a mixture of greens. And it's a little, like I said before, it's a little bit late to be doing greens, but we're gonna give it a shot here. And with greens, you can really just kind of sprinkle them over the ground. You don't have to be real fancy with it. And then we're just gonna lightly cover that up. So we'll have some greens right there. I'm gonna come up the side right here. I'm gonna sprinkle some on the ground. We're gonna lightly cover it up. And I'll even go in between some of these rows right here and cover them up as well. So the last thing we have is the spinach. And so I think what I'm gonna do, I've got this little corner up here left. We're gonna do 5 or 6 little spinach plants. Here again, it's a little late in my area for spinach, but we're gonna give it a go, because what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna harvest this one time. I'm gonna cut the spinach and the greens out. And we are going to plant, like I said earlier, some yellow crookneck squash. So right now we're just gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spinach. And we are planting. That is gonna be our first little garden here. So as I said earlier, this garden will evolve throughout the summer. It's going to change over time. As the greens fade out, we're gonna put some other stuff in. The Athena cantaloupes, the okra, the tomatoes, the peppers, and the corn, they'll be here all summer, but we got this area here in the front where we're gonna change some stuff out. So what do I do from here? Where I planted stuff, I'm gonna go around with Osmocote vegetable embedding plant food. Any slow release fertilizer will be sufficient here. You want like a 90 to 120 day prill, and do like 3 shakes on each plant. And you don't have to be real neat with this here. You just want to get it kind of in and around the root zone. Don't put too much, just 3 little shakes, or maybe like a tablespoon around each one. Where we planted these seeds with the corn, we're gonna go down through there. The spinach, the greens here, and then the zucchini in here. And that should be it. So what do I do from here? We are going to water this daily. And then on alternating Mondays, if you follow the channel here, you know I'm a fan of this regimen. On one Monday, we're going to water this with BioKelp. And I'll leave a link down in the description below for Osmocote and for BioKelp. And also, the other thing we need to mention is Miracle Grow. So one Monday, BioKelp watering. The next Monday, Miracle Grow watering. Tuesday through Sunday, we're just watering with normal water, okay? And that's it. So this is going to be kind of a documentary throughout the summer. I did a video on how I built this bed. I'll leave that link here. We are now planted. This is round one for summer. So we got some greens, we've got some fruits in here. We got some staples as well, the corn and the tomatoes. I think everybody has that in their garden. And we're just going to rotate some stuff through here. We're going to keep a weight of everything that we grow, and at the end of the summer, we'll find out our total weight. Guys, as always, thank you for watching The Plant Doctor, and until next time, happy gardening.